Good evening everyone, we are the Group 4 and we are going to tackle about environmental crisis. Objectives: environmental crisis, origins of the environmental crisis, manifestation of environmental issues, everyday encounters with environmental issues, policies and programs to address the environmental crisis, relationship between the population growth and the environmental crisis, food security and the environmental crisis, sustainability and the environmental crisis, development and environmental impact, globalization and the future of the environmental crisis, and lastly, the conclusion. So, environmental crisis. What is environmental crisis? The environmental crisis refers to the severe and escalating degradation of Earth's ecosystems due to human activities. It encompasses various interconnected environmental issues that threaten biodiversity, natural resources, and human health. So, we have example of the environmental crisis. Number 1, pollution. The contamination of air, water, and soil by harmful substances. Pollution disrupts ecosystem, harms wildlife, and poses serious health risks to humans, including respiratory and cardiovascular disease. And number 2, global warming. The gradual increase in Earth's average temperature mainly due to greenhouse gas emission from human activities. This leads to more intense weather patterns, melting ice caps, and rising sea levels, threatening coastal regions and increasing the frequency of natural disasters. So, number 3, desertification. The degradation of land in arid, semi-arid, and dry subhumid areas, often caused by deforestation, overgrazing, and poor agricultural practices. Desertification reduces the productivity of soil, affecting food security and livelihoods for millions of people. And lastly, number 4, ozone depletion. The thinning of ozone layer, which protects lives on Earth from harmful ultraviolet radiation, and it is caused by chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons, or known as CFC. So, ozone depletion increases the risk of skin cancer, cataracts, and disrupts ecosystem. So, the global impact of this environmental crisis, this crisis impact everyone worldwide by intensifying health risks, threatening food.
So, I'm going to discuss the origins of the environmental crisis. So, there are 4 origins of the environmental crisis. So, first is the industrialization and fossil fuel consumption. Second is the urbanization and land use changes. Third is the resource exploitation. Fourth is the growing consumerism and waste. So, first is the industrialization and fossil fuel consumption. This the rapid growth of the industry since the 18th century has led to high levels of fossil fuel use, releasing large amounts of greenhouse gases and pollutants that contribute to global warming and air pollution. Second is the urbanization and land use changes. It is the expansion of cities and infrastructures, often involves clearing natural areas, disrupting ecosystems, and reducing biodiversity. Urban sprawl also increases pollution and resource demands. Third is the exploitation. It is activities like deforestation, mining, and overfishing deplete natural resources, harm ecosystems, and contribute to soil degradation, biodiversity loss, and carbon emissions. And the last is the growing consumerism and waste. It is the rise in consumption. The disposable products generates vast amounts of waste, much of which ends up in landfills or oceans, polluting the environment and straining natural resources.
Everyday encounter with environmental issue. Number 1. Pollution in daily life. Plastic waste. Single-use plastic from packaging and product accumulate in landfill and ocean, polluting the environment and engaging wildlife. Car emission. Daily vehicle use release carbon dioxide and pollutant into the air contributing to smog and global warming. Number 2. Climate effect. Extreme weather, people are experiencing more frequent and intense events like hurricane, wildfire, and floods, disrupting daily life and local economies. Number 3. Increased temperature and drought. Impact on water and food. Rising temperature and prolonged drought strain water supplies and reduce crop yield, driving up food and impacting availability. Health impact. Air pollution. Regular exposure to polluted air can lead to respiratory problem, allergies, and heart disease. UV exposure. Due to ozone depletion, higher UV level increase risk of skin cancer and eye damage, impacting daily outdoor activities.
International efforts. First is Paris Agreement, a global pact to limit global warming to below 2 degrees Celsius, aiming for net zero emissions by mid-century. Second, Kyoto Protocol, an earlier international agreement that set legally binding emission reduction targets for developed nations. And second is local policies. We have recycling programs, initiatives to reduce waste and encourage the use of materials often through incentives or mandatory recycling. Second is pollution controls. Regulations limiting emissions from factories, vehicles, and waste disposal to reduce air and water pollution. The third, green energy subsidized. Financial support for solar, wind, and other renewable energy projects to reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Number 3, not we defend. Not on biodiversity, conservation, climate change, and sustainable development. First is Greenpeace. Focuses on environmental activism and campaigns to address climate change, deforestation, and pollution. United Nations Environment Program, or UNEP, coordinates global efforts to address environmental challenges and promote sustainable practices. Number 4, corporate initiatives. So we have carbon offsetting. Companies offset their emissions by investing in projects that reduce or capture greenhouse gases such as reforestation. Second is renewable energy commitments. Many corporations are transitioning to renewable energy sources like solar and wind to reduce their carbon footprint.
So, good evening everyone. My report tonight is relationship between population growth and environmental issues. So, number 1, higher demand for resources, energy, and land. Population growth leads to greater consumption of natural resources, including water, food, and energy. The increased demand can result in overpopulation of resources, deforestation, and habitat destruction. Number 2, increase waste and population. A larger population generates more waste, including plastics and other non-biodegradable materials. This waste contributes to pollution in landfills, waterways, and oceans, as well as increased emissions from industrial and household activities. And last, number 3, challenges of managing urbanization and infrastructure expansion. So rapid population growth drives urbanization, leading to the expansion of cities. This rapid population growth drives urbanization, leading to the expansion of cities. This constrains infrastructure, resulting in inadequate waste management, increased traffic congestion, and higher population levels. The need for housing and services can also lead to further environmental degradation as natural areas are converted into urban spaces. Thank you.
Food security and environmental crisis. First, impact of climate change on agriculture and food production. Climate change affects agricultural productivity through shifting weather patterns, altered growing seasons, and increased frequency of extreme weather events. Rising temperature can lead to reduced crop yields and threaten food security for vulnerable populations. Second, threats from soil degradation, drought, and water scarcity. Soil degradation caused by practices like over-farming and deforestation reduces soil fertility and productivity. Drought and water scarcity limit irrigation and drinking water availability, further jeopardizing food production and access. Third, initiatives for sustainable farming and resource management. Sustainable farming practices. Techniques such as crop rotation, agroforestry, and organic farming promotes soil health and biodiversity, helping to mitigate the impact of climate change. Water conservation measures. Initiatives like rainwater harvesting, drip irrigation, and sustainable water management practices help optimize water use and address scarcity issue. Support local food system. Encouraging the local food production and consumption can reduce reliance on long supply chains, enhance community resilience, and improve food security.
Sustainability and environmental crisis. Number 1, definition and principles of sustainability. Number 2, how sustainable protection addresses environmental challenges. And 3 is examples of sustainable development goals and relevant to the environment. 1. Definition of and principles of sustainability. Sustainability refers to our ability to meet the present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Economic visibility. Sustainable practices aim to balance these aspects to ensure long-term ecological, health, and social well-being. Number 2, how sustainable practices address environmental challenges. Renewable energy, transitioning renewable energy sources and hydropower reduces reliance on fossil fuels and decreases greenhouse and gas emissions and mitigates climate change. 3. Examples of sustainable development goals. SDG climate action urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. SDG 15 Life on Land aims to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems and sustainability manage forests. SDG 6 Clean and Water and Sanitation focuses on ensuring availability, sustainable, and management of water sanitation for all. SDG 5 Responsible Consumption and Production encourages sustainable practices through efforts to reduce waste generation and promote resource efficiency.
So I'm going to discuss the development and environmental impact. First is balance economic growth with environmental protection. Achieving economic growth while ensuring environmental sustainability requires integrating environmental consideration into development policies. This balance involves adapting practices that promote economic development without degrading natural resources or harming ecosystem. Second is green development models. Eco-friendly infrastructure. Develop of infrastructure that minimize environmental impact such as green buildings, sustainable transport system, and smart cities promote efficient resource use and reduce carbon footprints. Low carbon technologies. Adoption of technologies that reduce greenhouse gas emission, including renewable energy. Globalization and the future of environmental crisis. First is impact of global trade on resources and emission. Global trade facilitates the movement of goods and resources across borders, often leading to increased resource extraction and higher carbon emissions from transportation. The demand for raw materials can result in over-exploitation of natural resources, while the carbon footprints of transporting goods contribute to global warming.
Second is opportunities for collaborative environmental action, technology sharing. Globalization fosters the exchange of innovative technologies and the best practices that can enhance sustainability efforts such as renewable energy technology, efficient agricultural practices, and waste management solutions. Third is potential risk of rapid globalization to the environment. Resource depletion. Increased demand for natural resources driven by globalization can lead to unsustainable construction practices resulting in habitat destruction, biodiversity loss, and depletion of essential resources like water and minerals. Pollution. Rapid industrialization in developing countries to meet global demands can lead to increased pollution levels, include air and water.
Conclusion. The environmental crisis is a complex web of interconnected issues such as pollution, climate change, resource depletion, and biodiversity loss that exacerbate another and require a holistic approach to address effectively. Global cooperation is vital for tackling these challenges. Collaborative efforts among nations, communities, and organizations can facilitate the sharing of knowledge and technologies leading to the sustainable solutions that benefit both the planet and its inhabitants. Prioritizing sustainability development practicing is essential to balance economic growth with environmental stewardship. Both individuals and governments must take action. Individuals can adopt sustainable practices in their daily lives, while governments need to implement policies that promote environmental protection. By working together, we can create a sustainable future and safeguard our planet for generations to come. And thank you for listening, and I hope you've learned something.